So I'd started a playthrough of Snake Eater last year, and one of the reasons I kind of stopped was because I got really busy with work, but also because there was all these rumors swirling that they were making a Snake Eater remake. And then just this week, we got this really unexpected, well, some would say unexpected, others would say the industry's worst kept secret, that Snake Eater was in fact being developed as a remake, a complete overhaul. This is a complete graphical overhaul. I'm going to go ahead and say right now that I'm at maximum stoke levels for this one. So I'll get that right out of the way. The fact that we thought this series was completely dead and now we at least have something to look forward to. We don't know when it's coming out. We don't have any real idea of the timeline. And I just hope it doesn't get caught in some like the Last Guardian kind of situation, where we're just getting teased every year and then it just disappears, This is probably the best move that Konami could make because, quite frankly, I don't think that fans would accept a totally new character in the Metal Gear universe. I don't think, not right away anyway. I think it's possible if this studio, whatever studio it is, can prove themselves by doing remakes, they can earn the trust, they can earn the support of the Metal Gear Solid fan base. And then, for example, they could move on and do that spin-off that they were talking about where the boss gets her own game. That I could see that happening, just not right away. Whatever studio is taking over on this, they got to earn our trust first. And Metal Gear Survive was not it, brother. No way. You guys know what I'm talking about. Conceptually, there are so many different directions that one could go, just utilizing the existing lore, the existing history, but introducing new characters or introducing new mechanics that are still based around the same fundamentals of what Metal Gear Solid always was, which is not just an action arcadey shoot 'em up kind of a game. And that is a misconception about what Metal Gear is. Certainly with the Phantom Pain, you could play it that way, but it was not intended to be an action game as much as it was intended to be a stealth game. The most fun thing about Metal Gear is always the AI. It's always playing around with what the AI is doing, trying to trick them, trying to lure them, trying to use your gadgets in interesting and unexpected ways to ultimately make the player feel that they were really interacting with a living kind of an entity, a living group of entities. And in fact, there were moments in The Phantom Pain where I'd seen things in that was almost 10 years ago that came out now. And there were things that were done in The Phantom Pain that I've never seen in any game since, such as enemies that are talking to each other about where they believe that the location of the player is, and then sending literally hand signals to their squad mates to say, hey, he's over there, he's behind the crates. I've seen things like that happen. After playing 300 or 400 hours of The Phantom Pain, you're going to still see new behaviors in enemies. And that's the kind of thing that I hope continues to evolve. It's the kind of thing that I hope that they bring into Snake Eater. There are a lot of mechanics from Phantom Pain that I hope do get introduced. But more than anything, I have some speculation. I do think they're probably going to dig a little bit more into the survival aspects of Snake Eater. For instance, with the original Snake Eater, you could get injured and you had to use whatever you had collected in the environment to repair the injury. So for example, if you broke a bone, you had to have certain materials that you could use to to set the bone back into place and then create the proper splint, the proper brace. They were like, if you got burned, you had to have ointment. And these were not just things that you automatically had in your inventory. In some cases, you had to collect them from the environment or, for instance, even trap animals. And I kind of wonder if they're going to dig a little bit deeper into that living ecosystem that Snake Eater on the PS2 originally tried to do, which was very much ahead of its time. And not any games were really doing anything like that back then. This is a tremendous opportunity to dig a little bit deeper using modern tools. But here's the thing, and here's the catch. In some ways, this is a plus, and in some ways, it's a negative. They've straight up said that it's Delta. This is Metal Gear Solid Delta. That's a huge thing. The fact that it's called Delta implies that it's the same but different. It's the same but modernized. It's the same as what we had before. That tells me they're probably not going to add too much. And in some ways, that's good. I don't want modern politics mixed into this. I don't want commentary about things that are going on in modern times in going into this game. I want that original experience, but I want to enhance the way that, let's say, the Resident Evil games have done a great job of leaving the originals intact while simultaneously giving you the same feeling that you got from playing those originals in this new modernized kind of a way. So obviously things like player control is got to be improved. There was some jank. Let's just say the PS2 era, Snake Eater was one of the better ones, especially when they put out the Subsistence re-release, which basically gave the player 3D control over the camera. Believe it or not, the original Snake Eater had a top-down camera, if you can believe it. And then they went ahead and added in a camera that could be rotated around the character. But this was because the director just did not, he would get nauseous playing 3D games, and so he didn't really like the idea of a controlled camera. It was an uncommon thing for him. But, you know, whatever the case, they added that. And so now, I mean, we're looking at a possibility of having that over-the-shoulder camera. We're looking at the possibility of really blending in with all the different camouflage. One of the features of Snake Eater was that you could change out your face paint to match your environment a little bit closer. You could change out all of your camouflage to match the environment a little bit closer. It was the PS2, so you didn't have a lot of foliage. And then when a soldier would walk right by you and you were just camouflaged, it still looked like a body laying on the ground in the grass, which was just a grass texture. And now they could have a lot more polygons. They could have a lot more texture, a lot more, just stuff populating the environment, the kind of plant life that maybe the player is going to need new kinds of camouflage to interact with. These are things that I would want to see enhanced. Furthermore, things like larger spaces would be really interesting. There are a lot of little encampments and small bases throughout the jungle that I think could be expanded slightly or reorganized in the same way that, for instance, Resident Evil 4 was able to reverse or expand on some of the hub locations or the open areas to give the player a little bit more flexibility, and especially if you're talking about different routes for soldiers. So one of the things about these kind of games that gets a little old is you kind of get to memorizing the movements of enemy soldiers and enemy troops. And I really hope they put the time and care into the enemy AI to adapt and modify, and then also allow the player maybe like a second chance or a second run through where the enemies are maybe redistributed in a different way. And this was something they did with Resident Evil 3 remake as well, which really added a lot more playability to it. I wanted to go back and replay it. Oh, I think it wasn't 3, it was 8. It was the Village. And that gave the game a whole new breath of fresh air. It was like a master quest or a second quest. It was like a remix of something that we'd already just experienced, but there was more reasons to go back and play through it again. As far as characterization goes, I don't want them to mess with that. I am beyond stoked because I just read that they are bringing back David Hayter as a Naked Snake. And also they're bringing back as many of the original voice cast. So far, they've just said the entire original voice cast. I don't know if that's possible, but if it is going to happen, man, that's absolutely incredible. Hopefully we'll get a fresh performance. Just that little subtlety of re-recording can be a real boost to the actual experience. There was a remake of the Twin Snakes, they called it. There was a remake of the Shadow Moses incident, which was the original PlayStation 1 version, remade onto the GameCube, and they rewrote a bunch of stuff. And quite frankly, I think it's pretty much unanimously agreed that that wasn't the best version, even though gameplay-wise, there was a lot more that you could do, and that was really cool that it was like a remix of something that we loved. But generally speaking, the reaction was that the voice performance wasn't as strong. It did give a fresh coat of paint to it, which made it more enjoyable to just, even though you knew what was going to happen, there were subtle, unexpected things that were happening just with the voice intonation. If you've played these games multiple times like Metal Gear Solid fans have, obviously I'm one of these people, then the slightest difference in the way that a line is delivered can really change up that experience. So in some ways, really fantastic they're doing that. Again, really hope they don't mess with too much of what was there originally, though. Keep the respect for the original material. Don't add in a bunch of modern crap to it, okay? And I know it's just wishful thinking, but a part of me hopes that they'll do a collection, a Master Collection Volume 2, and they'll include Phantom Pain re-recorded with David Hayter. Dun, dun, dun. I know diehard fans will argue with me and say, oh, well, the thing is that wasn't really Big Boss, right? So yeah, sure. Yeah, all that aside, it's still, I would enjoy playing Phantom Pain with David Hayter. But Snake Eater was pretty much a damn near perfect game. It was a perfect game, not just for its time, but a perfect video game, and one that every game studio looked at and went, what are they doing? There's something magical going on here, so don't change that, okay? But simultaneously, there's still so many more ways that the player could interact with the world. The swimming was really janky in the original. The crawling through the grass would switch to a first-person camera. The fight with the pain was really literally it was the pain because of the camera more than anything else. And because you had to aim specifically to a character that was off screen a lot of times. And now with much more modern controls, I could see how things like that fight could be vastly improved. The same with the ocelot fight in the desert area of the game. So there are also things such as like climbing up into trees. I would like things expanded. My wish list, I guess you'd say, for things that they would expand upon are one, being able to navigate to some slightly new or variations on existing locations, give us some surprises, expand on the caves a little bit, maybe integrate some new enemy dangers or creatures that are dangerous or poisonous. Things like that would be really interesting. I think also the ecosystem, really play that up. You could, for instance, come across a crocodile literally eating a snake or eating another animal, things like that, behaviors in the environment that you could even use to trigger, for instance, crocodiles to attack other enemy soldiers, or maybe you could release animals, poisonous snakes in an environment that we would see the behavior reaction of these soldiers. Because the Snake Eater, the original, thought this way, and I think that they should extend that way of thinking. One example is that in one of the small fortresses or bases in the original, you could destroy their food storage. And if you did that, then after a couple of minutes, then the soldiers would get really hungry and their aim would get worse and they'd even verbally complain. These were just some of the subtle details of richness that the Metal Gear Solid series is really known for. And this is a way that they could really earn the respect of the audience while still being true and respectful to the original creator, the original team, and also to the fans themselves that have grown up with these characters. And again, I do think we really need to get that original voice cast, as much of them as we can, back into this game. And I hope that they really, it's okay, I think, to evolve it. And in some ways, I'm sure that Konami wants to sort of take this series into a new direction. I could see them doing Metal Gear Solid Delta 2, which would, be like a remake of 2, I guess you'd say, or it'll get really confusing for players. But if this is, in a sense, sort of a remake or a reboot of the series, I'm not opposed to that, man. I'm on board. Give me something juicy and exciting to look forward to, though. It can't just be the game I've literally played 10 times already. Anyway, I don't want to drag this video on too long. I'm just really stoked about this. I'm really excited. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. What are your hopes and dreams for Snake Eater Delta? What do you want to see here? Metal Gear Solid Delta, I think it's called. What are your hopes and dreams? What do you want to see? Is this a catastrophe? Is this something you're disappointed in? I mean, certainly it's never as exciting to get a CG trailer as it is to get, actual gameplay footage. I would have really liked to have seen some gameplay, but at the same time, if it's not ready, it's not ready. And this is one that we've been waiting a long time. I'm just excited to know that there's a future for this series, at least for my part. But, what do you think? Sound off in the comments below. And let me know, do you even want to see me play through the rest of the original? I kind of want to keep it fresh. I want to save it, I want to, maybe I'll start on a playthrough of the Phantom Pain or one of the others in the series. We do have confirmation that they are bringing the original first three games, as well as the MSX games, to the PlayStation 5 and modern consoles in, I believe they said August. So, I mean, obviously, you can just watch me play through them here on my gaming channel. But that is an opportunity to revisit those games. I don't know that I will again. You know, I mean, I tend to play through Metal Gear Solid 1 with some degree of frequency, just whenever. But I've just recently discovered that there's like PlayStation 1 HD widescreen hacks. And the most optimal way to play that game is not necessarily going to be on modern generation consoles, unless they're going to add a widescreen hack to those versions. I don't think so, though. I think playing it on that PlayStation 1 emulator with a widescreen hack is probably the most, the best way to view it, you know. But we'll see, you know. It's certainly, I'm just kind of glad that they're making them available for more people to enjoy. These are epic games, and certainly shaped a lot of where the video game industry has come from, and just excited that the series is still alive. So that's it for me on this one. I'll see you guys, and I'm going to have a playthrough video of something coming up. Let me know what you want me to play, all right? And I'll see you guys in the next one. All right.